Hello, everyone. I hope all of you are having a good day so far. Um, just a few things before I get into the last two slides of Chapter 6 for today. Number one, you should have all taken your Chapter 6, Section 2 quiz in Schoology. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you complete it by the end of class, which would be 10:45, all right? Because after 10:45, you'll no longer get access to the quiz. So whether you're at home or in school, make sure you do that. That was the do now for today, and I mentioned it yesterday that you had to take the quiz. For homework, all you have is to study for your test tomorrow on Chapter 6. The test will be open book. All right, so I strongly suggest making some review sheets, maybe index cards on some people we covered in this chapter or terms we covered in this chapter in preparation for the test. All right. At the beginning of class tomorrow, I'll take any questions on the two slides that we covered today. All right, so if any of you are lost on what I talk about, we can go back and review it before you take the test tomorrow, which will be in Schoology. It'll be about like 35 questions. Alrighty, so take out your notes if you don't have them out already, and we're going to pick up where we left off with the ratification of the Constitution, all right, the Constitution that we have today. All right, so as I mentioned yesterday, in September of 1787, all right, the U.S. Constitution that was put together by the Committee of Style will be sent out to the state legislatures, and each state has some intense debates kind of going back and forth on whether or not they should approve of the ratification of this Constitution. All right, some delegates in the state legislatures feel like the convention went too far. All right, those were the anti-federalists and the people that believe the Constitution is what the country needed. All right, those were the Federalists. So just a little review from what we talked about yesterday. And the first state that ratifies the Constitution on December 7th, 1787, all right, so literally 3 months after the convention was over, is Delaware, right? Delaware, if you ever see Delaware on someone with a Delaware license plate, it says the first state, and that's in reference to Delaware being the first state to ratify the Constitution unanimously, literally 10 months after it was written in 1787, and many other states will follow, right? Pennsylvania ratifies it not too long after that, New Jersey, Georgia, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and then after that, there's a period where we have 6 states that have ratified, and the 3 more we're waiting on, and there's a big gap. There's several months that go by without a state coming out to approve of this Constitution, and a lot of people throughout the country felt like Virginia was such a key state, being that so many leaders of the American Revolution and of the convention were from that state, and being that Virginia was one of the larger states, that if Virginia does come forth and ratify the Constitution, a lot of states will kind of get in line, all right, because Virginia is such a large state, and there are a lot of respected, leaders of our country from that state. Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, James Madison are just a few. Now, after there's a couple months without any state coming by, Maryland approves it, being the 7th state, then South Carolina, all right, in May 1788, and then New Hampshire will ratify the Constitution, becoming the 9th state on June 21st, 1788. All right, that is when the document officially became legal and the law of the land, all right, where we the people, all right, the famous 3 words of our preamble, becomes our governing body, right? And Virginia does eventually ratify it 4 days after New Hampshire on June 25th, and then New York and North Carolina ratify the Constitution, and it will be all the way until 1790 when all 13 states ratify this Constitution. So eventually they all do. All right, Rhode Island did not even attend the Constitutional Convention, if you remember, and they did not ratify it until May 29, 1790, and they were, fearful of a large, powerful government being created, all right, which is why they did not attend the convention and why the ratification of the document took so long. Okay, so make sure you have this information. Know Delaware is the first state. Virginia was always a key state, but New Hampshire is the ninth state after South Carolina and Maryland in 1788. All right, so a year after the convention, you have the ratification of the Constitution, where the Constitution was now officially legal. All right, and we have a new government. All right, and under this government, once the Constitution is ratified, we begin to hold elections. And the first president that is elected unanimously, all right, uncontested, well, not uncontested, but, everyone favored George Washington for his leadership during the American Revolution, all right, for his leadership during this troubled time in the 1780s, all right, and serving as the president of the convention. All right, he is elected as the president. And at this time under the Constitution, we'll talk a little bit more about this in Chapter 7, the person that wins the second most votes becomes vice president, and that was John Adams. Okay, and George Washington and John Adams will set a precedent for the executive branch. Or so George Washington and John Adams are on the executive branch. The first Congress meets in March 1789, or after the elections are held, and the Congress basically agrees with the anti-federalist position is that we needed to make a Bill of Rights, and that's something that was also agreed upon in some states like Virginia, that if they were going to ratify the Constitution, a lot of anti-federalists wanted to see this new government make steps to protect individual rights, such as the first 10 amendments, which are considered our Bill of Rights, are called the Bill of Rights. We're going to talk about these 10 amendments in Chapter 7, and you'll need to know each of these first 10 amendments, which protected people against abuses by the federal government. And we still see these amendments apply today. There's situations, throughout the year, all right, over the course of a month or a week, where people feel that the federal government is violating their rights. Okay, and that kind of comes from the Bill of Rights, which is established by the first Congress in that met in March of 1789. All right, so from this slide, know that George Washington is elected as president, all right, unanimously. All right, John Adams received the second most votes, so he becomes vice president to George Washington. All right, so they didn't run together like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did. All right, they ran separately, and it was first place president, second place vice president, which is a little different today because that would mean if that still applied to our society today, that means that Biden would be president and Trump would be vice president, and we can only imagine how that would work today in our society. All right, so this is the last slide for Chapter 6. If you have any questions on these two slides, I'm glad I will take emails later today. If you have any questions, email me, or you can ask me at the beginning of class before the test tomorrow. All right, thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great day, great afternoon, and make sure you get your homework done. Make sure you start studying for the test after the video, and we'll start Chapter 7 on Thursday. All right, thank you, everyone. Bye. Have a good day.